have been to one interactive, it used to be Interactive Trade Show, I think, and now it's the Interactive Festival, the South by Southwest Interactive, which has grown spectacularly over the years. But that one time that I was able to actually get inside, I really felt as though my brain was going to explode. There was so much energy in that room, and interesting ideas and people and speakers and products, and I swear your IQ will go up 20 points if you go there. But it's pricey. Volunteer. Anytime you want to go somewhere and you can't afford it, volunteer. And when the volunteer call for South by comes up, I hope you will all do that. But anyway, Hugh Forrest has been the director of the South by Southwest Interactive for the last 21 years. He's an English major, go figure, and has been in the publishing business. He had a little rag called the Challenger, and somehow volunteered. I think you started with South by as a volunteer, is that correct? Doing data entry, and look where he is now. He's the big cheese of the Interactive, and an incredibly nice guy. I'm so glad he's here. Let's give a big hand to Hugh Forrest.
So again, I'm going to talk a little bit about South by Southwest Interactive, and then we'll talk about some of the job-related stuff that we do. My name again is Hugh Forrest. I am the director of the South by Southwest Interactive Festival. You can reach me by email at hugh@sxsw.com. By Twitter, I am at Hugh_W_Forrest. And here we go. So, thanks for coming to hear me talk this morning. It's always a great honor to talk, and really happy to be here. We're going to start with a brief history of the event, starting with South by Southwest music, and we'll talk a little bit more about Interactive. We'll talk about where Interactive now is in terms of its reach and overall impact. We'll talk about why buying a badge is a good thing to do. We'll also talk about how to benefit from South by Southwest without buying a badge. At some point, we will do the South by Southwest trivia question. The good thing about the trivia question, whoever gets the answer right wins a free badge for 2016. So when I see you start falling asleep, that's when we do the trivia question. It's a way to try to keep the energy high. And hopefully we'll have a little time for Q&A at the end of the event. We have a video that I don't think is worked with lots of speakers. I know that interesting talks are always a good thing, and I try to hedge my bets that way. Yeah, I think you can see it, but you can't hear it, so. Now, I could narrate the whole thing, because I've seen it a few times, but particularly, I tend to show this video outside of Austin where people aren't familiar with the event. With most of you guys from Austin or in town during part of South by Southwest, you're fairly familiar with this. What I like about the video is that it's short, it conveys the energy of the event. Again, it's not me talking, and the more video and less me talking is always a good thing. This is the music portion of the event. There would be lots of cool music playing if we could hear the audio, but no big deal, I'm missing that. There is Lady Gaga, who is our keynote speaker for music at the 2014 event, and some of the performers who played in recent years as well. There's the fireworks at Auditorium Shores. This is the interactive portion, which is again the portion that I lead. Showing the trade show there, showing some of the stuff in the evening, showing the presentations. That's the gaming expo. That's a photographer by the name of Chase Jarvis. winners of some of our competitions. And again, the third leg of South by Southwest Film. That's the red carpet at the Paramount, some of the winners, some of the movie stars who have been here in recent years. So again, I love that video because it creates a sense of energy, and South by Southwest is all about energy. Gives people a real quick overview of what the event is. What is not so good about that video is it doesn't particularly show the history of the event. And it's easy for people to think that South by Southwest was always that big. It wasn't. The first year of South by Southwest started in 1987 as a music-only event. I think that was our one promo piece in 1987. The event was patterned after something in New York called the New Music Seminar. At one point, the organizers of the New Music Seminar were going to come to Austin and start this thing called New Music Seminar South. That ended up not panning out. And so it was organized locally by some of the folks from the Austin Chronicle, as well as a gentleman named Louis Myers who ran a club called Liberty Lunch. Anybody remember Liberty Lunch? All right. Good job. Good thing I didn't use that as a trivia question. Why the event always happens in March. I love this story. When the organizers, level above me, first wanted to do this event, they went around talking to clubs, saying, we got this new idea for this new festival, it'll be really great. And the clubs turned out to be a fairly conservative lot. And they said, sounds like a really interesting thing, come back in a few years when you've got an established business model and you can use our club. Kept knocking on doors, kept knocking on doors, kept knocking on doors, persistence, persistence, persistence. Finally, the club said, well, we've got 1 week out of the year that is our worst week. That is spring break week. 50,000 UT students leave Austin that week. You can have my club that week. I can't do any worse than I do now. Turn that around 5 to 10 years later, that week became the best week for these clubs, the best week of the year. Many of those clubs do 20, 30, 40% of the business of the year in that 1 week. I think that's a really good story about taking what is a perceived weakness and turning it into a strength. So again, that first year there was 15 venues and 177 bands. It grew, the music portion grew very quickly after that. How I became involved in South by Southwest. I grew up in Austin, went to a small liberal arts college in Ohio called Penn College. Was an English major there, came back to Austin after graduating. And in a lot of ways, I was the embodiment of Austin in the 80s. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wanted to do one thing one day, something else another day. As Kathy mentioned, I was doing a, quote, alternative publication called the Austin Challenger. Alternative not so much because of its politics, but because of its publishing schedule. It never really came out when it was supposed to. But by the Challenger, I knew the folks at the Chronicle. 2 weeks before the 1989 event, I got a call from my friends at the Chronicle. They said, we'd like to know if we can put our database on a computer. And I said, well, that's what computers are for. You can put your database on a computer. And there was a little bit of a pregnant pause, and they said, well, how about your computer? So I got hired because I had a computer. Not because of this, but because I had a computer. And that's an early lesson, the importance of having the right hardware at the right time. Short history of South by Southwest Interactive. The first year for Interactive, which was then called Multimedia, was 1994. We eventually changed the name to Interactive. In those early days, we were very focused on CD-ROMs and how they would change, particularly the education industry. We would not survive some very, very lean years if not for South by Southwest music paying the bills. Very lean years means that in the parlance, in the lingo of the startup world, we essentially had a 10-year valley of death where we were not making money, where we were just barely getting along. And I was always in favor of throwing in the towel, but fortunately, or unfortunately, no one ever listened to me, so we kept going, and eventually good things happened. There's, again, more in the history of the Interactive by this really cool thing from Fast Company 2 years ago. This is how we grew between 2005 and 2014. That is our scary hockey stick. We don't want to look at that too long because it is scary. So why did we grow? In 2004, one of our keynote speakers was a gentleman named Jonathan Abrams. He was the founder of a company called Friendster. Friendster was the precursor to MySpace. Then Friendster came along. We didn't quite understand what the social media stuff was, but it seemed really interesting. We happened to be at the right place, the right time with a lot of the social media stuff, and that is a huge reason for why we grew. In 2007, Twitter essentially launched South by Southwest Interactive. I say essentially because they already launched 5 months earlier, but they were nice enough to credit South by Southwest with being the place that they launched. We had a very disastrous keynote from Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook in 2008, disastrous in every way possible, but it got us a lot of publicity and we extended the name that way. In 2009, Foursquare and Koala, two location-based companies, launched at South by Southwest. And that brings us to our trivia question for the day. If you have the answer, raise your hand and I'll call on you. If you get the answer right, you win a free badge to the 2016 South by Southwest Interactive Festival. That trivia question is, what other fairly famous company at this point launched at South by Southwest Interactive in 2009? We want a clue? Back here?
Uber.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Yes. Uber launched at South by Southwest 2009. I'll give you my business card at the end of the talk, and you can email me. So social media and startups have been two of our biggest factors in terms of our growth. And in 2010, South by Southwest Interactive, in fact, passed South by Southwest Music as the biggest part of the event. Some other reasons on why we grew. Again, we had the luck of being at the right place at the right time. Who knew that social media was going to be such a big deal? I certainly didn't know, but we were lucky enough to get a lot of the early players in that space coming to South by Southwest, and that helped us grow a lot. We were very persistent and very patient. Again, to a fault there. We kept going and kept going and kept going, and it finally worked. We had the ability to make lots of mistakes in relative obscurity because not many people were coming to our events, so we could make mistakes over and over again, and that was a good thing. We also had a strong focus on and attention to community. That helped us a lot. Last but certainly not least is this, what I call this big cultural and societal shift since 1994. I can remember 1998, 1999, 2000, 2001, when we just weren't growing very much at all. And I would complain to my friends, complain to my colleagues, complain to anyone who would listen that, look, you know, we've got South by Southwest Music that brings rock stars to Austin. We've got South by Southwest Film that brings film stars to Austin, movie stars. Hollywood comes to Austin. We've got South by Southwest Interactive, and all these are a bunch of geeks. Who cares about geeks? Well, again, society has changed a lot since 1994. Geeks are the rock stars now. The Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard, go on to become one of the 10 richest people in the world. That narrative is extremely powerful right now, and we have done a little bit to push that narrative, but it benefited a whole lot from how that has changed. And again, it has changed completely. I never would have imagined in 1994 how much the landscape would have changed, but again, helped us very, very much. Shifting to where we are now, verticals we now cover at South by Southwest Interactive. We do a lot of stuff on design, on programming, on coding, and that really speaks to where the event started 20 years ago. We now do a lot of stuff and continue to do a lot of stuff on startups and the investment ecosystem. We do a lot of stuff now on health and med tech. In 2015, we launched a health and med tech expo. We certainly, this is very intentional with regards to the New Dell Medical School. We think that health and med tech are going to grow like crazy in Austin over the next 5 years. And South by Southwest is always a very strong reflection on what is a big part of the Austin economy. We do a lot of stuff on content and distribution, which mainly means journalism 2.0. We do a lot of stuff on privacy and security. Government policy is big as well. Last year we had 30 some odd members of Congress in Austin for South by Southwest. Whether or not that is a good thing, I will leave that to your decision making there. We do a lot of branding and marketing stuff. We do a lot of big data, artificial intelligence and smart cities, and a lot of convergence stuff, which is where all these industries come together, i.e. future of entertainment, our new sports track. We have a food track now. We also do stuff on style. So in our best days, South by Southwest is a marketplace of ideas, and we are a big, big tent, which includes all kinds of people with incredible new and innovative thoughts on how society is changing. Quick overview of some of the big name speakers at South by Southwest of the last few years. That is Elon Musk, who is, of course, the founder of Tesla, as well as SpaceX, and he is talking there with Chris Anderson, who is the author of Longtail. That was a keynote presentation from 3 years ago. Elon famously said in that keynote speech, "I want to die on Mars, but not on impact." Lots of headlines. But good. So some of the big name speakers in recent years: Elon Musk, Eric Schmidt from Google has spoken the last 2 years, Anwar Jasicki, who does the bio research company 23andMe, Bill Abramson, former editor of the New York Times, Edward Snowden did a presentation at South by Southwest via Skype 2 years ago. We've had Shaq speak a couple times. Al Gore has been at the event a couple times. Rand Paul was there last year. The actress Julia Louis-Dreyfus was there last year as well. That said, this is really just 1% of the speakers at South by Southwest. 99% of the people speakers are people you have not heard of before, and that is a good thing. We are always about previewing the future at South by Southwest. These people help we market the event, they get attention, but the real meat of the event is people you haven't heard of before. Quick recap of the 2015 South by Southwest Interactive Festival. Our big story last year, or this past March, was Meerkat. Are you guys familiar with Meerkat? No? Meerkat is an app that I could do meerkatting my presentation now, and it would go out live over the internet. It's kind of a self-broadcasting thing. They launched at South by Southwest and got a ton of buzz. And 10 days after they launched, Twitter launched their own version of this. It's called Periscope. Check those things out. They're pretty interesting. We had about 33,000 total registrants, 4,000 members of the media. In terms of total content, about 1,200 keynotes, panels, solos, presentations, and other sessions. Excuse me, dozens and dozens of networking events, and it was an incredible opportunity to make important one-on-one connections. At the end of the day, that is what South by Southwest is all about. That's what any event, including this event this morning, is all about, making one-on-one connections. Economic impact of South by Southwest Week. From 2014, our economic impact for the city of Austin was about $315 million. That is money on hotels, on meals, on taxis, on trinkets, on t-shirts. It is a strong increase from 2013 and 2012. Our figures for 2015 will be released in September, so that'll be coming up soon. The context of that economic figure is it's about 2/3 of the Super Bowl. So South by Southwest puts a lot of money into the Austin economy. Even better, South by Southwest brings a lot of the world's most innovative minds to Austin. People come here from all over the world. South by Southwest, in our best days, shines a very, very bright light on the creativity in this city this year round. I think we're one of the many factors that has helped Austin grow and experience its current growth boom, and we're one of the things that has helped push Austin to be one of the nation, and in fact one of the world's top cities to start with. Okay, that was all preamble. Now to the main heart of the presentation. I'm going to talk about badges, and I'm going to talk about ways you can attend for free. So, why you should buy a badge from South by Southwest. Buying a badge gets you access to the most content at South by Southwest. As I said before, we'll have somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000, 1,200 total panels covering a huge range of topics. a great way to get new ideas, hear what's going on, hear what's going to be hot in the future. Again, this content ranges from keynotes to exclusive daytime parties and events. Buying a badge also gains you access to incredible evening events. It allows you to do the most networking in Southwest Southwest. Again, networking is what Southwest Southwest and all these other events are all about. Buying a badge also helps you make connections before the event. I will also say that buying a badge helps me put my son to college, so just think about that. More badge-related information. The deadline for early bird discount, the early bird registration discount, is the end of the day on Friday, September 11th. Early bird discount saves you $470 on the walk-up price. There are some member-based organizational discounts for people in Austin. For instance, if you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce or Austin Technology Council, you can get a discount. You can also, as was mentioned in the intro, get a badge by working as a South by Southwest volunteer. Our volunteer call will happen in early January, and you can keep up to date on that by going to volunteer.SxSW.com. Okay. The college education of my son notwithstanding, here are ways that you can do South by Southwest on a budget. SX Create. This is our maker, hacker, DIY space. Exhibits, exhibitors, and booths cover everything from 3D printing to drones to the latest hardware innovations. In 2006, we moved our robot ranch to SX Create. As the name implies, Robot Ranch is where we showcase the latest innovations in the robot world. It is scheduled, South by Create, it's scheduled March 11th through Sunday, March 13th. The location for 2016 is the Palmer Event Center. SX Create is absolutely free to go to. You do not need a badge to go to SX Create, but you can go to that for free. And I will also say there's the added bonus that there's lots of parking at the Long Center. That will cost you $6 or $8, but it's certainly a little bit easier to get to the Long Center during Southwest Southwest than through other locations. So again, SX Create, that is free. Another way to participate in the event for free, the Southwest Southwest Gaming Expo. Gaming is one of the fastest growing verticals and aspects of Southwest Southwest. The Gaming Expo will have about 100 booths and exhibitors this year. There's lots and lots of energy, lots of excitement, lots of activity. For 2016, we moved the location of the Gaming Expo to the Austin Convention Center. Again, that's a new location for 2016. The badge is not required for entry to the Gaming Expo. It is free. There are also gaming-related panels, presentation sessions at the Austin Convention Center. Those are free to attend as well. And there is the South by Southwest Gaming Awards on Sunday evening, March 19th, and entry to that is free. So if you're interested in gaming, if your kids are interested in gaming, this is a great place to go. There are also certainly some gaming jobs and opportunities there. It's a great place to go. Last but certainly not least, South by Southwest on a budget, we have a new thing called the job market. This is a great place to see what kind of tech and job companies are hiring at present. As with all things, South by Southwest is a great place to make connections. It brings lots and lots. So if you're attending the job market, bring lots and lots of copies of your resume. We'll likely have about 100 exhibitors there. For 2016, the job market is scheduled Saturday, March 12th and Sunday, March 13th. That will occur in the first floor of the Austin Convention Center. That's a new location for 2016. Badge is not required for entry. It is absolutely free. I know that everyone here will have jobs by March, so you probably won't need to worry about that. But to your friends who are still looking for jobs at that point, again, tell them about the job market, March 12th and 13th, absolutely free. A few other opportunities to talk about in terms of how you can leverage the event. You may or may not know that there is a huge shortage of hotel rooms in Austin during South by Southwest. When I speak at events like this, people often come up to me afterwards and say, thank you, I rented my house on Airbnb last year during South by Southwest, and I paid for my taxes that way, or I paid for my summer vacation that way. There are certain regulations in terms of, City of Austin regulations in terms of short-term rentals that you probably need to pay attention to, but again, there's an extreme shortage of lodging. If you're interested, think about renting out your house or apartment during South by Southwest. People are paying big money for these things. There are you can also think about providing services to people coming to Austin. Again, remember you've got 15 to 20,000 people from all over the U.S., all over the world coming to Austin who don't necessarily understand the city. There may be some opportunities there to provide services for them. There are lots of people hiring for temporary jobs during South by Southwest. There are lots of new service workers that are required, and this can be an entree to a larger, longer employment. We talked about Uber launching in South by Southwest 2009. Uber and Lyft are incredibly popular during South by Southwest, so there may be some opportunities there. As always, think about ways that you can create value in what you do during Austin in March. The more you can take advantage, leverage, use this as a platform to connect with all these people from around the U.S. and around the world who are coming to Austin for the event, the better you can further your career and your development. Additional important South by Southwest information, I'll mention that we have an ECO event coming up October 5th through 7th. We also are involved with the Texas Tribute Festival October 16th through 18th. The dates for the interactive event for 2016 are March 11th through 15th. South by Southwest Week is March 7th through 16th. We now, for the last 5 years, have added an event called South by Southwest EU, which is March 7th through 10th. That covers innovation and technological developments in the education world, which is interesting because that's where we started with multimedia way back when. Quick review, other review of timeline. We will do another big content announcement on September 8th. I mentioned September 11th is the deadline for badges, for early bird badge sales. Another content announcement on October 19th. You can always find out more about South by Southwest at SxSW.com. Again, feel free to email me, Hugh at SxSW.com. By Twitter, I'm at Hugh_W_Forrest. If you want these slides, we can get these to you after the event as well. Thanks so much for coming to hear me talk. And do we have a few minutes for questions?
Absolutely.
We have a few minutes for questions. So I'm happy to try to answer anything you may throw my way. And if not, I'll try to figure some other way to talk.
Yeah, is EDU still free? It has been in the past.
No, EDU, you need a badge for that. But there is an EDU Expo that I believe is still free. And that is at the Austin Convention Center.
Will my interactive pass get me?
No, it's a different badge for EDU than interactive.
How many people do you employ to be around?
The South by Southwest staff at this point is about 150 people year-round. That number swells to 200, 250 as we get closer to the event. We have some fairly cramped offices at 5th and Lamar, so right across the street from Whole Foods, and it's a very hard-working staff.
Last year I posted all of the stuff, and last year, maybe the first year that we were able to hear the presentations, you could tap into them and hear them streamed.
Yep.
Did that cause any kind of a decline in the badge purchase, since people could hear that online for free?
To repeat Kathy's question or comment, we typically stream a lot of the keynotes at the event, as well as a lot of what we call featured speakers. So you can watch those for free on the convenience of your home computer. We've done that for the last few years. That has not really impacted badge sales. It is great to be able to see those keynotes in person, although I would say not a whole lot different watching them on your computer. What is valuable about being there in person is, again, the networking that you can do, and you can't necessarily accomplish that from your home computer. But again, watch the South by Southwest site. As we get a little bit closer, we'll have more information on what sessions will be streamed, and that's another great way to take advantage of the event without buying a badge.
Does the interactive overlap the music week at all, or are they separate?
Great question. Interactive happens at the same time as film. Music happens later in the week, but we have one day, which is Tuesday, March 15th, which is where all three events overlap. Again, to my talk about geeks of the new cool, geeks of the new sexy, what is really interesting over the last 5 years is there used to be this sea change in people when interactive was ending and music was starting. There is less of that now. There is a large portion of the interactive crowd that wears skinny jeans and has tattoos and all that stuff. I will say the jeans get proportionally skinnier and the tattoos get proportionally bigger during the music part of the week, but there's not as much a difference in the first part of the week as the second part of the week as there used to be.
How's the growth and status of the Vegas event, and do you foresee Austin continuing to be the home of the main flagship event?
Great question. Initial part of the question was about this event that we have in Las Vegas, called South by Southwest B2B. We did the third edition of that in mid-July. It is a very small event at this point, but somewhat commensurate to where Interactive was about 2003. We would hope it, or we would like it to grow a little faster. Hasn't quite grown that fast yet. It is a sobering reminder how hard these things are to grow, and a reminder of how hard it was to grow Interactive and how much we don't know about this business. In terms of long-term viability in Austin, there's certainly some constraints in Austin in terms of hotel space, and we all know how bad traffic is throughout the year, even more so during South by Southwest. That said, South by Southwest is a very, very strong reflection of all the creativity that happens here year-round. South by Southwest started in the 80s as a reflection of the strong music scene. We added music and film because the film scene here was beginning to get more vibrant, and the tech scene grew as well. So again, I can't see South by Southwest leaving Austin. There are certainly a lot of challenges in Austin, but there is no place in the U.S., the world, quite like this city. People love coming here in March. It's a great place, and it is our home. The question is Jimmy Kimmel, who has been at South by Southwest the last 2 years, doing a week's worth of shows at the Long Center. We do not yet know if he will be here in 2016.
Yeah, I live right down by Barton Springs, so I travel right through it. And last year at the intersection of Barton Springs and Lamar, there was a little sign set up in the median that said, South by Southwest attendees, please don't make eye contact with locals. Has there been pushback from the local community that like this thing's getting too big?
Yes. Look, here's my analogy or comparison. There's a week during May that drives me crazy, or a weekend during May that drives me crazy, or June. That is the Rock Rally. And I hate that weekend, but I always wonder, that must be what the rest of Austin thinks about in March when I'm doing South by Southwest, or when we're doing South by Southwest. So, traffic is bad during that time, even worse than it is normally. It's hard to get, it's hard to go to a restaurant. The restaurants are more crowded. There are a lot of inconveniences. And I am strongly sympathetic to people who are inconvenienced by the crowds that we bring in. Again, I think long-term and overall, the benefits of those crowds and the benefits in terms of attention to the city and the jobs that it creates, short-term and long-term, are worth those sacrifices. But yes, totally sympathetic to people who aren't so crazy about it.
Yeah, I live a stone's throw from Zilker Park. ACL is a much bigger problem for me.
Absolutely.
And we get out of town during at least one of the 2 weekends.
So when you rent your house out for Southwest, where do you stay?
I don't rent my house out. I stay at home, but I know of people who will rent their house out, and if they've got a guest house, they'll just move into their guest house, rent out their front units.
They go on vacation.
Go on vacation. Again, Airbnb, HomeAway, all these services do incredibly well at the event. I would also say that Airbnb got its first kind of initial push in the geek community because there were so many people using it for South by Southwest. It's kind of remarkable how elastic that market turns out to be. For the first part of the week, i.e. interactive, downtown hotel rooms are sold out in roughly 3 hours when we go on sale. But we end up selling, 15,000 more badges after that. A lot of that to people out of town who are finding some place to stay, whether it's on someone's couch, whether it's renting someone's apartment, whether it's putting 5 people to a room at the Hilton or the JW or whatnot. Somehow it works. Again, this is one of the challenges long-term in Austin, that there maybe aren't enough hotel rooms, but I also think it kind of helps rein us in a little bit, and that's probably a good thing in terms of overall growth.
Like early registration or something?
The early bird registration for interactive is $825. The walk-up rate is $1295. So that is for the interactive event, which is March 11th through 15th. You can also buy a gold badge that gets you into interactive and film, or a platinum badge that gets you into interactive film and music. It is certainly not a cheap thing to do at this point, but I think that we offer value comparable to events like TED, which are $6,000 or $7,000 for a badge. So a lot of value there.
Depending upon your volunteer level at South by Southwest, I did stage manager and I had a flight.
Yep. You can, to what was mentioned there, you can volunteer. Lots of great networking opportunities volunteering. Get a badge that way. There are lots of volunteers in Austin. There are also lots of people who come in from all across the U.S. and all around the world to volunteer for the event. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000 to 3,000 total volunteers who help make the thing run, and they're essentially the people who run this thing on site.
I read something after the last event. I think the author was a South by Southwest hater, but he said that there seemed to be a growing number of people at the event basically coming just to go to the parties and to get the link, or to go to the event. You found it? Crowd?
Yes. You want longer as that? There are a number of official, there are hundreds of official events we do. There's also an entire ecosystem of free unofficial events, what might be called guerrilla events that happen around South by Southwest. As an organizer, my job is to try to pull those unofficial events, guerrilla events, into the main thing. As an attendee, I'm not sure that you understand. I went to one thing that was official and it was great, and I made this connection. I went to something else that wasn't official and I made this great connection. It's all part of South by Southwest Week. I will say, so I'm very much of two minds around there. I will say that, our concern here on reeling in a lot of this unofficial stuff, one of our most important concerns there is safety. And in wake of the tragedy on Red River from 2 years ago, it is a strong reminder how quickly something like this can get out of control and how important safety is. And that's one of the reasons that we are trying to reel some of this stuff in.
I once volunteered and I had no time to go to the panels, so is there a way you can volunteer ahead of the events and get that gold badge?
Yes, there are some opportunities to volunteer where you're doing your hours in January and February, and you can have most of your time in March to attend stuff, or even volunteering during music and attending panels during interactive film. But again, that if that's important to you, and it sounds like it is, I would be diligent in trying to get the first volunteer call and signing up for those kinds of shifts as soon as possible. It's in the neighborhood of 70 to 80 hours.
80 for the platinum.
There you go, like I said.
I can't remember each one of them,
I have a tip. I volunteered a couple, 3 years ago. There's a group called Utilities, and 3 days before they're in there, put in all the cabling and all the extensions, so you can get a big chunk of your hours done right before that.
Yeah, I got this, I was invited to speak at the Social Good Summit last year, so I got an interactive pass. And I found the, number one, both the mobile app and the website had greatly improved from previous years. But the number of sessions is just flat overwhelming. Is that changing at all? What I've heard, because I've submitted my own panel for this year, is it seems like there's been a massive number of panels submitted.
At South by Southwest, we specialize in sensory overload. Sometimes that's a good thing. Often that's not so good thing. And to what you said, yes, there is strong sense of FOMO at the event, which is fear of missing out, that I'm having fun talking to Kathy, but there's someone, the next party I really want to talk to, and I've got to run over there. We're conscious of this. We're cutting back a little bit on sessions this year, but that's probably going from, again, 1,200 last year to 800 or 900 this year. So it's still way more than any one person can attend. That is, again, both the beauty and the curse of the event. There's so much going on. There's so many people to meet. You always are concerned that you're missing out. My strong advice is there is to plan ahead, and if you're having fun, you're learning something, don't worry about what you're not seeing, because you know that you're getting the benefit of the event if you're having fun or learning something.
As an English major, are you happy doing what you do?
Well, I have found there is still a little bit of use in the world for people who can relatively put a noun and a verb together. And operative word there being relatively, because I can't do it very well. But I mean, my main strength here is again, persistence. I do a lot of web content, writing, that type thing. I'm fairly good at organizing and cat herding, however you want to say that. It is a really fun job in the sense that I get to meet a lot of great people, and a lot of really interesting people return my emails now that never used to. That said, what we do at South by Southwest is just grind for a year on details. We're really good at handling a lot of details. There's still a ton of details that we haven't handled yet. It's preparing your whole year for 5 days. And that is fun in a lot of ways, but also there are some times where it's not so fun. So, all right, thank you so much for coming out and listening to me.